Peace, Israel, and Yah bless. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. The title of this lesson is Easter. There is no such thing. Stop paying homage to dumb idols. Once again, today's lesson is entitled Easter. There is no such thing. Stop paying homage to a dumb idol. Once again, brace yourselves, tighten up your jaws. Do not turn to the left or to the right, or you will get hit in the mouth. We are to walk the straight and narrow way of the Most High's commandments. We are not to deviate to the right hand or to the left hand. We are to walk straight and narrow. And we are to be in obedience to this thing. We are to obey it, and we are to have respect unto the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts. Now, we know certainly it is April. It is springtime, it's the month of Abib. The year has begun, and we know Passover is coming up. Some Israelites have already kept Passover. However, we understand that Passover is to be kept. We cannot do certain things in the lands of our captivity, but we are to observe it. Now, some of them may do it at different dates, as long as we agree that it must be done. It must be kept in remembrance, along with all the other laws, statutes, and judgments that we have been given. So we're not going to debate on what time and date, because we are not sure of exactly what time and date it is. We're just to be as in close proximity at this current juncture, because our memories have been stripped and everything has been removed from us. So therefore, the exact time and dates have been changed by the Romans, and we are unsure of exactly what time frame that we're in. Notwithstanding, let's go ahead and start with this lesson. We will start off this lesson at Joel chapter 3, and we'll read verse 2, explaining that the house of Israel has actually been walking after these many idols. It has served us no good. It has been to our demise, and this is the reason why we are in captivity to this very day, because we have taken a hold of falsehoods. All right, Joel chapter 3, and we'll begin with verse 2. I will also gather all nations, and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. So the Most High is making clear here that he's going to gather all the nations, because the nations have scattered his people, and they have taken his land and partitioned it up and allowed other people to come in and take possession of that land. Now, we know clearly that there's no such thing as Israelis being scattered throughout the earth against their will. Does not exist. There's no lands that Israelis have had that other people have come in and occupied. No such thing. However, we can attest to the fact, and we can bear witness to the words of the Most High, that the children of Israel, aka black people of the diaspora who have been scattered throughout the earth, we have had our names removed, our heritage removed, and we've been under the oppression of other people and have been subjugated to their laws and their lawless behavior for centuries. So we can attest to the fact that we actually are wearing these curses that the Most High had pronounced against his people. So he said that he would gather all the nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, and they're going to pay for what they have done to his heritage, for what they have done to his people, to what they have done to his saints, for what they have done to us. So the nations, they have that to look forward to for what they have done by scattering the holy people among the nations, and for taking the Most High's land and partitioning it up and allowing heathens to go on that land and do all manner of foul things. Now, let's move to Isaiah chapter 47, and we'll read verse 6. Isaiah chapter 47 and verse 6 reads, I was wroth with my people. I have polluted mine inheritance and given them into thine hand. Thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient have thou very heavily laid thy yoke. The Most High has taken his heritage, his people, the house of Israel, and he has scattered us throughout the nations. So we are in the hands of our enemies, in captivity in the many nations in which we dwell. We are speaking all manner of languages. If you look at the slave trade and you look at all the European nations, we speak their languages and we carry their names because they placed their names upon us. They have also forced us into their customs and their ways and their laws. So we are those chosen people who have been scattered throughout the nations, and they have heavily laid their yoke upon us. They have shown us no favor and absolutely no mercy. Hence, we see the violence done to us over the centuries in the many nations in which we dwell, where we have been held captive, scattered throughout the nations. Now, let's move to Nehemiah, the book of Nehemiah. I will read chapter 9 of Nehemiah. Nehemiah chapter 9, and we'll read verse 27 and 28. We have been told that JC died for you on the cross in April, rose up in 3 days. It's the biggest lie ever told in the nations of the earth. And the children of Israel, we have taken hold of this falsehood. We did not have the knowledge by which to contend what was being said. We were being led astray intentionally by our enemies. For our enemies will not give us anything that will be to our benefit. Their goal was simply to steer us as far away as possible from our strength, who is Yah, the Most High. And they were to mislead and misdirect us into walking after idols. For if we walked after idols, they knew clearly that our God, our strength, will not help us. Therefore, their dominion over us would be prolonged. But if we ever found out who our strength was, and we turned towards him with our whole heart and our whole soul, and walked in his commandment, their dominion would be over. And this is why we were led astray. Now, let's turn to Nehemiah chapter 9, and we'll read verse 27 and 28. That way it can be made clear unto you that the children of Israel, we have had many, many saviors. For we were in captivity many, many times, because we have walked against the law, statutes, judgments, and precepts of our Creator, and we were shipped or taken into captivity by many nations. This is not the first captivity that we have seen. So we have been delivered, we have been saved, we have had saviors prior to now. Once again, Nehemiah, we're in Nehemiah, and Nehemiah chapter 9. Nehemiah chapter 9, and we will read verse 27 and 28. And verse 27 of Nehemiah chapter 9 reads, Therefore thou deliverest them into the hand of their enemies, who vexed them, made them angry. And in the time of their trouble, when they cried unto thee, thou heardest them from heaven, and according to thy manifold mercies, thou gavest them saviors, who saved them out of the hand of their enemies. So we have seen and we have had saviors before that has delivered us out of the hands of our enemies. Joshua, Moses. So we've had individuals that has delivered us out of the hands of our enemies in times past, and we've had more than one. And we didn't have to have a baptism or anything crazy, and no one had to die and go up into heaven, no place, in order for us to be delivered or saved. Verse 28. But they that had rest, they did evil again before Yah. Therefore leftest thou them in the hand of their enemies, so that they had the dominion over them. Yet when they returned and cried unto thee, thou heardest them from heaven, and many times did thou deliver them according to thy mercies. So once we were delivered, we returned back unto the Most High and cried out. We started doing right. We started obeying his law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. Okay? And when we start doing that, we got rest. But once we got rest and became comfortable, then we began to do evil in the sight of the Most High again. And so therefore he delivered us into the hands of our enemies again, who ruled over us, who had dominion over us. You understand? And then when we turned back onto his law and cried out, then he heard us, sent us saviors, and delivered us once more. So we are habitual offenders of the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. And we have had saviors before. Let's make that quite clear. Now, let's turn to Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 19. Isaiah chapter 19, and we will read verse 20. Isaiah chapter 19, verse 20 reads, "And it shall be for a sign and for a witness unto Yah of hosts in the land of Egypt. For they shall cry unto Yah because of their oppressors. And he shall send them a Savior, Moshe and Aaron, and a great one, and he shall deliver them." So, we have been in captivity before. We have had many saviors before. So this is not our first captivity. It is, however, our last. And that is the difference between what we're seeing now and what has been foretold in times past. Okay, so Moses is a savior unto the house of Israel, and he was sent by the Most High in order to rescue us out of the hands of our oppressors, who are the Egyptians. Nowadays, our oppressors are all these European nations, and in some cases, the Arab nations. Okay, all the black peoples of the earth who have been scattered are under the oppression of other people. All right, now let's move over to Isaiah chapter 30, and we'll read verse 1. Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 1. We have sought the counsel of the Romans, of the Christians. We have sought the counsel of other people. We have not sought the counsel of the Most High. Hence, we are still in the mess that we're in. Chapter 30 of Isaiah, and we'll read verse 1. Verse 1 reads, "Woe to the rebellious children, saith Yah, that take counsel, but not of me." We're taking counsel from Christians. We're taking counsel from Romans. We're taking counsels from our oppressors, those who kill us and murder us and hate us. And we're listening to them. "And that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin." We continue to add sin to sin because we continue to walk in opposition to the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. The Most High gave us his laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts that we are to walk in forevermore, generation after generation. Then your enemies, who are killing you before your very face, comes up with another doctrine, prints another book, and tells you, well, no, all of these things are no more. You are to do this now. Things are new. Things are different. Yet everything that your oppressors do throughout the earth, you can bear witness with your own eyes that they are in direct opposition to the Most High's law. These people are killing you every day. And nothing they have done has ever been to your benefit. In fact, it has been to your demise. However, you choose to walk after their counsel rather than the counsel of the Most High. And you wonder why you're in the mess that you're in. Now, let's turn to Habakkuk. And we will read chapter 2 and verse 18 and verse 19. Habakkuk chapter 2, and we will read verse 18 and verse 19. And verse 18 of Habakkuk chapter 2 reads, "What profiteth the graven image, that the maker thereof hath graven it, the molten image, and a teacher of lies, that the maker of his work trusteth therein, to make dumb idols." This JC figure, this European strung out on a cross, is a graven image. It is falsehood. No white man has ever died for you, ever. And I mean ever. Most High does not have any son named JC that he sent down to die for you. You cannot find this in our records any place. It is a bold-faced lie. It is a dumb idol. Cannot speak, cannot breathe, and it certainly cannot save you. You have been turned into it for centuries, and still you have not been delivered by it, nor will you ever be. Verse 19, woe unto him that saith to the wood, awake, to the dumb stone that you're kissing all the time, arise, it shall teach. Behold, it is laid over with gold and silver, that silly necklace that you're wearing all the time. And there is no breath at all in the midst of it. That statue that you have in your house of some white man with some long hair, there's no way in the world that thing has ever delivered you. It is an accursed thing. Remove it from your presence. Get it out of your house. Burn it. That necklace that you're wearing, covered over with gold, with that graven image, that accursed thing strung out, that cannot breathe, cannot speak, cannot taste, cannot smell, cannot walk, cannot save. That thing is to be getting rid of. It's to be burnt. It is a graven image. You're walking contrary to counsel that the Most High has given us. We're to put nothing or anyone before him. He is but one, and his son is Israel, the nation. You will never read anywhere out of the mouth of a prophet from the days of old where the Most High said he had a son named JC that he sent to die for people. It does not exist. No one can die for the sins of another. Every man dies for his own sins. All right. So we've read 19 and 20. We've read 19. Let me go ahead and read 20 just for effect. But Yah is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Most High will dwell in his temple once that third temple is built. There are no sidekicks with him. There are no idols with him. It is just the Most High and the Most High alone. And you walking after these dumb idols, you are in error. And that is why you continue to be afflicted day by day, year by year, generation after generation, because you failed to heed the counsel that was given at the first. Now let's turn to Jeremiah chapter 10. Jeremiah chapter 10, and we'll read verse 14 through 16. For you are caught up in walking after these dumb idols. Jeremiah chapter 10, and we will read verse 14 and verse 16. Verse 14 of Jeremiah chapter 10 reads, every man is brutish in his knowledge. Every founder is confounded by the graven image. You are confused by this graven JC image that you worship, that you kiss, that you pay homage to. For his molten image is falsehood. This thing is a lie. And there is no breath in them. No breath, and it's not alive. It's nothing but a lie. It cannot save you. Has not saved you. And you should have seen this in your present sight right now. You should be able to look back and see this in your parents' generation, your grandparents' generation, and generations before. They have all turned and placed their trust in this graven image. Yet they were murdered. They were hung. They were locked up. They had medical experiments ran upon them. Their children were killed. They have been enslaved. Their waters have been poisoned. Their food has been poisoned. Do I need to continue with a long list of egregious ills that's been done to our enemies, or done to us by our enemies, and we walk after their falsehood, placing our trust in this graven image and placing our trust in our oppressors and their oppressive system? It has failed us, and it will always fail us. This is not the counsel of the Most High, and we are to return to it. All right. Once again, we're reading all the way to verse 16. So let's read verse 15 of Jeremiah chapter 10. They are vanity, lies, and the work of errors. In the time of their visitation, they shall perish. Verse 16. The portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the form of all things. And Israel is the rod of his inheritance. Yah of hosts is his name. Excuse me. We are not to walk after these falsehoods. We are the Most High's inheritance. We are his sons. and daughters. That's the entire house of Israel. Whatever your father has, that's what you inherit. The whole earth. We will inherit the entire earth. We are the priests and the leaders of the earth. Therefore, we are to teach righteousness, and we are to uphold the standard that we were given at Sinai. We are to uphold these laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts, that righteousness may be within the earth. For there is no such thing at the moment. All we see is wickedness and unrighteousness in the midst of us. And this is only possible because the men and women of the house of Israel have refused to take up this mantle and teach and to walk in this law, setting that example that righteousness may be established within the earth. That is our job. That is our purpose. So we are to understand that we are not to be as the heathen. And the Most High did say specifically that he will break us of that habit. And how will he do that? Those who refuse to turn back, he's going to kill you. That's as straight and narrow as I can give it to you. There's no time. We're too late in the game to be cute with words and speak to you in a smooth manner that you may be comforted by lies. Now, let's turn to Psalms 115. Psalms chapter 115. And we will address these dumb idols that you have placed your trust in and you think have died for you and went up into heaven and made a place for you, and that you're going to die and go to heaven and live forever, and all these other manners of lies and falsehood that these Romans have taught you. These Christians have taught you. These Catholics have taught you. Romans, Christians, Catholics, all synonymous. They're all the same people. Now, we're at Psalms 115, and we will read verse 4 through 9. Verse 4 of Psalms 115 reads, "Their idols are silver and gold." That necklace that you have on your neck of that European strung out on that quote-unquote cross, is it not made of silver or gold? This is what we are addressing right now. You walking contrary to instruction. You taking a hold of vanity. You worshiping dumb idols. And this has caused a great sin. It's an egregious sin to do such a thing. Hence, your life is troubled and there is no peace in it. For in order for you to know peace, you have to walk in righteousness. You have to know this law, just so you get an understanding of that. Once again, verse 4 of Psalms 115. "Their idols are silver and gold, the work of man's hands." Somebody made that thing with his own hands. If he didn't make it, there's a mold by which that thing is pressed and formed. And so it's the work of man's hands. It's an error. Verse 5. "They have mouths, but they speak not. Eyes have they, but they see not. They have ears, but they hear not. Noses have they, but they smell not. They have hands, but they handle not. Feet have they, but they walk not. Neither speak they through their throats. They that make them are like unto them. So is everyone that trusteth in them. O Israel, trust thou in Yah. He is their help and their shield." So, once you take a hold of this dumb idol and you begin to worship it and speak about this idol died for you, they're telling you that a white European died for you, and you have seen in your lifetime nothing but Europeans murdering and slaughtering you with impunity. You've seen the same thing in your parents' generations and your grandparents' generations. So now the Most High said you have to bear witness, and a witness sees. You must be able to look in this book, read and understand these words, and whatever generation that he brought you to remembrance in, you are supposed to look at these words on this page and see all these things manifest before your very eyes to let you know that you're awake and you're bearing witness to his words. So we can see clearly that, yes, the house of Israel is walking after this falsehood. Yes, we have these things on our necks. Yes, we are worshiping these things and we are being punished for it left and right. Now take hold and take heed to this verse 8 of Psalms 115. They that make them are like unto them. So is everyone that trusteth in them. So these are dumb idols. And the people that make them are dumb people. And the one that walk after it are also dumb. Deaf, blind makes you dumb. Lacking knowledge, lacking understanding, lacking wisdom. Therefore you think a stone and a graven image is somehow going to save you. Can you imagine that? And you're wondering why that isn't working for you. All right. Now let's stay on the same chapter. We will read verse 9 through 18 of this same chapter. Verse 9 reads, O Israel, trust thou in Yah. He is their help and their shield. O house of Aaron, trust in Yah. He is their help and their shield. When you hear of the house of Aaron, that specifically addresses the priest of the house of Israel, the priestly line. You cannot be a priest on this earth unless you are a direct seed of that man Aaron. No one else. That is by bloodline and by bloodline alone. Verse 11. Ye that fear Yah, trust in Yah. He is their help and their shield. Yah hath been mindful of us. He will bless us. He will bless the house of Israel. He will bless the house of Aaron. The house of Israel is the whole collective. The house of Aaron is specifically speaking to the priestly line. He will bless them that fear him, or he will bless them that fear Yah, both small and great. Yah shall increase you more and more, you and your children. Keep in mind, we are a family, and the blessings or the curses are to be generational. Okay, verse 15. Ye are blessed of Yah, which made heaven and earth. The heaven, even the heavens, are Yah's, but earth hath he given to the children of men. The dead praise not Yah. Let me read that one more time. Verse 17 of Psalms 115. The dead praise not Yah. A dead man don't hear nothing, can't feel nothing, can't taste nothing, don't know anything. So if you think you're going to die and go up to heaven someplace, you have not read this book and you certainly have not understood it. And if a man is dead and you think you're going to pray for him because he's dead, you're wasting your time. These are things that you have to understand. That way a sense of reality can hit you. Because what has happened in these nations with our people, we have been so damaged psychologically and we've been so fractured that we tend to want to stray as far away from reality as possible. You can take reality and put it in our face and we refuse to actually look at it. We would rather take a hold of something that's false, something that's fictional. We fail to deal with the reality of our own circumstances. And at this critical juncture, we must. So when you die, you cannot praise the Most High. Someone praying for you is a waste of time when you're a dead man. Because you know nothing, you can feel nothing. It's the end of you. Neither are they that go down into silence. When you go down into silence, when you die, when you go into the pit, you're done. You continue to live. If you have been blessed by the Most High, you continue to still be here via your children. And that's how you continue. So though you are dead and gone, you're still here via your seed, your genetics. And when the Most High is totally displeased with you and he wants to uproot you by the roots, he wants to take you off of the face of the earth, he'll kill all your sons. And therefore you will indeed be dead, for you will no longer be on this earth. So when you hear the term of living forever, it's the fact that you will die, you have sons, they continue to have sons and daughters, therefore your genes are still on the earth, and you will always be before the Most High to walk in his statutes, his laws, judgments, and precepts. You will always be before him in that manner. But if you think you're going to die, go up into heaven. You have not read this book and you certainly have not understood it. Verse 18. But we will bless Yah from this time forth and forevermore. Praise Yah. So we are to bless the Most High. We are to walk in His laws, His statutes, judgments, and His precepts. We are not to take a hold of dumb idols and walk after them and walk after the counsel of our enemies. For nothing our enemies has ever given us has ever been to our benefit. They are our enemies for a reason. The Most High has made it so. Now let's turn to Isaiah chapter 1, and we will read verse 2 through 4. Isaiah chapter 1, verse 2 through 4. All right. Verse 2 of Isaiah chapter 1 reads, Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for Yah has spoken. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me. That's the house of Israel. We were nourished and we were brought up, and in spite of the tender mercies that were extended unto us, we decided to rebel anyway. Verse 4, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken Yah. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger. They are gone away backward. How so? To provoke the Holy One of Israel to anger is to walk outside of the barriers and the confines of His law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. Therefore, we have upset the Most High, because what we have done, we have corrupted ourselves. We have taken a hold of vanity, falsehoods, graven images. We have taken a hold of devils. So that graven image that you see when you go in your church, that graven image that's in your house, that may be by your bedside, that graven image that's on your neck, it's an accursed thing. It is not to be done. And it's an evil thing. It's known as a devil. So if you are bowing to that thing, doing a sign of the cross to that thing, praying to that thing, and paying any homage to that accursed thing, by essence, you are a devil worshiper. And we will validate that when we go to Deuteronomy chapter 32. All right. So we understand clearly here that we have provoked the Most High to anger because we have done all this madness. We are corrupters. Okay. Now let me read verse 3. We've read verse 2 of Isaiah chapter 1. Let me read verse 3 because we're supposed to read 2 through 4. But I skipped 3. Let's read 3 because that's important. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. This is verse 3 of Isaiah chapter 1. But Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider. So our people have been lacking knowledge. Remember, we've been made blind and deaf, or deaf and blind. We've been made a bunch of dummies in the midst of these nations. So we have not considered where our strength is. We have not considered the fact that these people are our enemies. Nothing they have ever done to us has ever been to our benefit. Our enemies will not give us anything to help us overtake them or take their place, or to be in contention with them for that number one spot, so to speak. So do not expect the enslavers to hand the slave something that's going to reverse the roles. It's not going to happen. They will not do it. Okay? So we are to remember these things. So once again, let's deal with verse 2 through 4, and we'll read it together. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for Yah has spoken. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider. We have not given any thought to this. We have not researched this. We have taken what our enemies have told us, and we ran with it. Verse 4, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken Yah. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger. They are gone away backwards. How so? They have turned their back against His law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. They have taken the counsel of the Most High and disregarded it, and they have taken the counsel of their enemies. Paul said this, and Peter said that, and the Romans said and the Catholic says that, and the Christian said this. In other words, Mr. Charlie said this, and Mr. Charlie said that, and we're going to run with what he said. Now, our knowledge have been increased. So therefore, what we can do now, we can go into this book, we can read it, we can decipher it, and we can now contend with that which has been told to us, and we can now go into this book and point out that all of Christianity is indeed white supremacy, and all of Christianity is indeed falsehood. Look at the Christian nations and look how they have dealt with our people throughout the earth, and how they have dealt with all people throughout the earth. The Christian nations, who are the European nations, know not peace. They have never turned to laws of the Most High. They have trusted in graven images, and they have given that graven image to you, and you have taken it and ran with it, and it has been to your demise and theirs. All right. Now let's go to Isaiah chapter 6. For you have been made silly, and that is why you're actually seeing these people murder you day by day, and still you believe that one of them has died for you and one of them is coming back to save you and all this other nonsense. All right, Isaiah chapter 6. Isaiah chapter 6, and we will read verse 9. And verse 9 of Isaiah chapter 6 reads, And he said, Go and tell this people, hear ye indeed, but understand not, and see ye indeed, but perceive not. Now remember that we have read in Psalms 115 that those who made these dumb idols are like unto them. Those who believe and trust in these dumb idols are also like unto them. So right here we're seeing what the Most High did to the house of Israel. He made us just as dumb as the idols. He removed our sight. We got eyes but can't see. We got ears but can't hear. Got a heart filled with fatness we can't understand. In other words, we're dumb idols just the same. We are as dumb as the idols that we have placed our trust in. And that's why we continue to be played by like fools by our enemies. And somehow the men of Israel and the women of Israel, those of you who turn back onto these laws, statutes, judgments, precepts, will certainly have a clear understanding of this. And once you do, then it is your duty to teach the house of Israel and the stranger that is of a contrite spirit that which is right. Very simple. All right, verse 10. Make the heart of this people fat and make their ears heavy. Shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their hearts and convert and be healed. When you convert to be healed, you are simply converting from wickedness unto the Most High's righteousness. You simply are converting from lawlessness to walking within the confines of the Most High's law. That is the conversion that needs to be done. There is no such thing as I'm going to convert to a Christian to a Muslim, and whomever else. You're simply making a turn back from unrighteousness unto righteousness. That is all you're doing. No baptism needed. The Most High, the house of Aaron, who are the priest of the Most High, has never, and I mean never, ever baptized an Israelite at no time. It never happened. It's a Christian lie and falsehood. All we have to do in order to be saved according to the Most High and his prophets is to turn back from wickedness, turn back from worshiping these dumb idols, and return back onto his laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts. And there we will find his protection, and there we will be saved out of the hands of our enemies. It's really that simple. So all of the things that we need to do in order to save ourselves, because no one can save you, no one can die for you, and no one ever died for you. We are to save our own selves simply by turning back from wickedness and turning unto the Most High's righteousness. That's it. All that we have to do in order to change our circumstance is within our own power. We do not have to go to our enemies for anything. We continue to go to our enemies for things that we think we need. We continue to beg them for justice and beg them for all of these different things and to beg them for righteousness. I've said it in times past. I'll say it again. You cannot get righteousness out of an unrighteous man. You cannot get justice out of an unjust man. our enemies in the midst of these nations, the Europeans as a collective, in all the nations where they have raped and murdered us and enslaved us. They have dealt with us in an unrighteous manner. They have laid a heavy burden upon us. They showed us no mercy. They showed us no favor. A father teaches his son. So if your father didn't know what righteousness is, didn't know what equity is, didn't know what justice is, you don't either. It's really that simple. So when we start turning to unrighteous people and begging them to be righteous, when we start turning to unjust people and begging them to be just, it's a fool's errand. And we have to understand this. They do not know what righteousness is. But then again, many Israelites do not. But as we learn what righteousness is, and righteousness is the Most High's law, and we begin to teach it, then our enemies and the other people of the earth will know what righteousness is, for there's someone that's standing up and teaching it. So do not expect a man to give you something that is not in his possession. They don't know what righteousness is. So to stand there and say no justice, no peace, you're wasting your time. They have no idea what it is and could care less what it is. And once all of these things begin to sink into your brain and your mind, you will understand exactly what your opposition is made of. And you will certainly tackle this problem or these curses in a different manner. Our only hope, our only savior, and our only way out is returning back onto these laws. There's no other way that's been laid out for us. Guns are not going to do it. Protest is not going to do it. Nothing is going to do it. Deuteronomy chapter 30 will do it. So if you want to know, how do I get myself out of this mess, go read Deuteronomy chapter 30. He tells us exactly how to alleviate ourselves from all this pressure that we're under in the many nations in which we have been scattered. We didn't come here because we wanted to. We were scattered and we're beaten over the head every day. So if you're wondering why that was done and how we can actually relieve that stress, we have to turn to Deuteronomy chapter 30, read it, and then walk after it and follow it, and we will see a change. Now, so we see clearly that Yah has made us to where he's pretty much stripped us. Let's read the verse 11 of Isaiah chapter 6. Then said I, how long? So this is Isaiah asking, how long are you going to make these people deaf and blind? How long are you going to have us as dummies walking around in these nations? And he answered, until the cities be wasted without inhabitant, and the houses without man, and the land be utterly desolate. I'm going to have you walking around like dummies in these nations until I've taken the entire land of Israel and get you all out of that land. I'm going to make the place desolate. You're not going to be there. I'm going to get you out. I'm going to evict you. I will evict you out of my land for walking contrary to my law. If you're going to be on the land, you got to follow the laws of the landlord. And we chose not to do that. And that's how we got the boot. Verse 12. And Yah have removed men far away, and there be a great forsaken in the midst of the land. So, when the Most High had removed men far away, have taken the house of Israel and shipped them out of the land, okay, and there's a great forsaken in the land, okay, that's the lacking of the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, precepts. No one is walking in it. Nothing but wickedness throughout the land. The land is barren. The land is desolate. And the house of Israel is nowhere in sight. That way the land can actually keep its Sabbaths. Because when we were on the land, we're supposed to keep a Sabbath for the land to where the land is to be at rest. The brothers were like, man, I'm going to plant anyway. I'm going to reap anyway. Forget about the Sabbath of the land. I'm going to get mine. That sort of mindset. So we have been a people from times past who have been unaccustomed to the yoke, meaning that we have always been in opposition to guidance, in opposition to law, in opposition to rules. We are a group of people that just want to do whatever it is we feel like doing. And to operate in such a manner is lawlessness, and that has been our demise thus far. We fail to walk in line and to stay within the confines of the Most High's law. And because of this thing, we have been removed far from the borders. We've been kicked out of the land, okay? Now, Let's turn to Proverbs. Proverbs 6, and we'll read verse 23. All right, Proverbs chapter 6, and we will read verse 23. And verse 23 of Proverbs chapter 6 reads, "For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life." These laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts are a way of life. It teaches us and it instructs us how to conduct ourselves day to day with each other, and how to conduct ourselves when no one's around. But even when we look around and we do not see a person, so to speak, the Most High's eyes roam throughout the earth. So everything that you do, righteous or wicked, you will be held accountable for it. You will be held responsible for it. So nothing that you're doing is going unchecked or unanswered, especially if it's something that you're doing that is certainly unrighteous and against this law. So when the light and the lamp has been removed, now we have no idea where we're going. We're now maneuvering in darkness. Darkness is akin to sin. Sin is akin to wickedness. Wickedness and sin is akin to crime. So the reason why we've been shipped into these many nations, we are actually in open prisons. For when you commit a crime, a biblical term for a crime is a sin. And so we are sinners in the nations, or we are criminals in the midst of the nations. Because what we have done, we have walked contrary to the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. So therefore our light has been removed, and we're now maneuvering in darkness. And it's hard to prosper when you're unable to see where you're going. So it is important and imperative that we return back onto this law. For once we do that, then we have that lamp and that light before us. Now we can look and we can see these lies. We can read exactly what the Most High instructed the children of Israel, and what the Most High instructed his prophets to instruct the children of Israel. And at no time did the Most High instruct us that he ever had someone die by the name of JC for the sins of us or for the sins of the whole world. He never said he had a son named JC either. None of these things were ever instructed to us, but we cannot see this if there is no light by which we can see. So this is the importance of returning back onto the law. The law is that lamp, that light. And if we do return to it, and then we take it and put it behind our backs, then we're back in darkness once again, bumping into walls, feet getting caught up in traps and snares, and hence our problems begin. So this is the importance of returning to this law. Then we're able to see all the lies that has been told to us by enemies in this quote unquote New Testament. All right. Now let's turn to Isaiah chapter 44, verse 6. Isaiah chapter 44 and verse 6 reads, "Thus saith Yah, the King of Israel." All right. The King of Israel is the Most High. Solomon, David, Hezekiah, and all the lines of David, all the sons of David, who are David, did nothing but David in a different generation, because it's the same seed. So David and his sons will always be before the Most High. Thus David will be before the Most High when the nation of Israel is gathered and placed back into the land. The seed of David will be there. That means it's nothing but David. It's his seed. It's just David in a different generation. One of his great grandsons, or whatever the case may be. All right, so we understand clearly here that the king of Israel is the Most High. The king of the whole earth is the Most High. David, Solomon, and all their sons after them are nothing but governors. They are princes of the people. They are not kings. There is but one king in Israel, and there's but one king in the entire earth. Just so that is understood. All right, once again, uh, Isaiah chapter 44, verse 6. Thus saith Yah, the King of Israel and his Redeemer, Yah of hosts, I am the first and I am the last, and besides me there is no God. So, Most High said he's the first and he's the last, which means there's nothing in between. So, when you hear this nonsense about JC died for you on some cross, went up in the sky for 3 days to make a place or prepare a place for you, a house of many mansions and all this other nonsense, you ought to seriously investigate that. You really should. And one way to do that is going back into the words that were given to us at the first. So sometimes when you're confused about what's going on at the end and you're confused about what's going on in the middle, one way to make sense of that is go back to the beginning. And it will make everything clear to you. For the Most High said he told us all that he needed to tell us in the beginning. Everything was given to us up front. There's no mystery here. There is no oh man, God moves in mysterious ways. There is nothing mysterious about him. He is up front with his people. That way we have a clear idea which way we are to walk. There's no confusion. In fact, the Most High is redundant. What he has said is over and over and over and over again, until after a while he gets tired of that, and then it's time to deal out some punishment. And that's where we are at this present time. All right. So we understand we're to keep that law at all times. All right. Let's continue because we're reading Isaiah chapter 44. We will read verse 6 all the way through verse 28. All right. Verse 7. And who, as I, shall call and shall declare it and set it in order for me, since I appointed the ancient people and the things that are coming and shall come, let them show unto them. So all of these things that the Most High has appointed, that he has said, he has done this from the days of old. You can't go anywhere and find where JC ever declared anything. It is a molten graven image, the work of man's hands. It is falsehood. Fear ye not, neither be afraid. Have not I told thee from that time, and have declared it? This was from the beginning. Ye are even my witness. Is there a strong one besides me? Yea, there is no strong one besides me. I know not any. So the Most High is making plain to the house of Israel, there's no God besides him. So if the Most High is going to say this out of his own mouth, and you are going to walk in defiance of that and say that God is JC, or JC is the son of God, or JC is equal to God, or anything like that, you are in error. You are blaspheming the Most High, and all of these things carry penalties. Verse 9, they that make a graven image are all of them vanity, and their detectable things or delectable things shall not profit, and they are their own witness. They see not, nor know, that they may be ashamed. So here it is, the house of Israel. We're making all these graven images, which is nothing but vanity. JC on his cross died for you. Their delectable things shall not profit. All the things that you delight in is not going to profit you. You delight in going to church, dressed up, wearing stuff that the Most High did not instruct you to wear. You delight in going to church, a church house that you say is God's house, when God's only had 2 temples built onto him, and they've been built in the same spot, and the third one will be built in the same spot. But yet you think when you go to this church that you are in the house of God. That's your error. So the Most High said, and they are their own witnesses, meaning you're seeing this thing before your very eyes. But though you see it, you can't understand it and you can't perceive it. They see not. That's part of you being a dummy. Isaiah chapter 6. Vision removed, eyes removed, made blind, made deaf, heart made fat, you can't understand. So they see not, nor know. You're a dummy, that they may be ashamed. So all these Christians out here, these Romans that look like me, these black Christians, these black white supremacists, because a Christian and a white supremacist is the same person regardless of their race. They don't know because their knowledge has been removed. They don't know because they cannot see the error of their ways. Verse 10. Who hath formed a god or molten an image that is profitable for nothing? Who is going to take a piece of wood, carve a man on it, and say that is God? Who is going to take a piece of silver or gold, carve a man out of it, and say that this is God? This is my Savior. This is what I pay homage to. This is what I pray to. This is what I trust in. Who is going to do that? It's profitable for nothing. Verse 11, behold, all his fellows shall be ashamed. So all you Christians, especially those that are of the house of Israel, it's going to be ashamed for this nonsense. The workmen, they are of men. Let them all be gathered together. Let them stand up. Yet they shall fear, and they shall be ashamed together. So all of you are going to be terrified when you place your trust in this graven image. And then the Most High makes it plain that you're in error. And you're going to be ashamed for this nonsense. And destroyed too for this nonsense. The smith with the tongs both worketh in the coals, and fashioned it with hammers, and worketh it with the strength of his arms. Yea, he is hungry, and his strength faileth. He drinketh no water, and is faint. These idols. Those who make these idols are just as dumb as those who place their trust in them and walk after them. Verse 13. The carpenter stretches out his rule. He marketh it out with a line. He fitteth it with planes, and he marketh it out with the compass, and maketh it after the figure of a man, according to the beauty of a man, that it may remain in the house. You got this nonsense of some man in your house. So some of you Israelites have gotten to think you're slick. You realize that, okay, well, no, a white man didn't die for me. I kind of get that part. I'll just switch it to a black man to make me feel comfortable. I'll just put some dreadlocks on him and tan him up a bit, and I'm going to let that go. But understand that you can take this nonsense and make him whatever race you want. Make him whatever hue you want. Have his hair dreadlock if you want. It doesn't change the fact that it's a lie. You can take Santa Claus and make him a black Santa and give him dreadlocks. It doesn't change the fact that Santa Claus is a lie. You can take JC and make him a black JC. It doesn't change the fact that that is a lie. It is falsehood. Verse 14. He heweth him down cedars, and taketh the cypress and the oak, which he strengtheneth for himself among the trees of the forest. He planteth an ash, and the rain doth nourish it. So this is us cutting down trees and fashioning it the shape of a man with our hands, and then putting up someplace and talking about this is my God and I worship this thing. This is what we have done. Verse 15. Then shall it be for a man to burn, for he shall take thereof and warm himself. Yea, he kindleth it and baketh bread. Yea, he maketh a god and worshipeth it. He maketh it a graven image and falleth down thereto. So this is the ignorance of the children of Israel. Man go in the woods, cut down a tree, takes that tree, uses part of that tree to create a fire, to warm himself. He uses part of the same tree to bake his bread and to cook his food. And then he uses part of that same tree to make an idol and to bow down to it and call it his God. This is the ignorance of our people and the ignorance of people in general. So we have a group of people that has brought us a God and taught us about God that display before our very eyes nothing but ungodly behavior. And you haven't considered that? Verse 16. He burneth part thereof in the fire. With part thereof he eateth flesh. So he take a part, burn in the fire to cook his food. He roasts flesh and is satisfied. Yea, he warmed himself and saith, I am warm. I have seen the fire. And the residue thereof he maketh a god. So you do all these things. You warm yourself, you cook your food, and you got a little stump left. You said, I'm gonna make a god out of this thing. And so you make your little graven image, the shape or the form of a man, something we were clearly instructed not to do. And you decide you're going to pay homage to it, bow down before it, and all this other nonsense. And you still have not figured this out. All right. Once again, verse 17 of Isaiah chapter 44, and the residue thereof he maketh a god, even his graven image. He falleth down unto it, and worshipeth it, and prayeth unto it, and saith, deliver me, for thou art my God. So here you are in front of some JC statue, bowing down to it, doing the signs of the cross to it, kissing it, saying that's your God. This is the work of man's hands. Somebody made that thing with their hands. And you're out here talking about this abomination, this falsehood, this graven image is your God. Speak not, hear not, got feet, can't walk, can't speak, can't save, can't see, can't smell, can't taste. And this is your God. Consider all of that. They have not known nor understood, because you've been made dummies. For he has shut their eyes that they cannot see, and their hearts that they cannot understand. Isaiah chapter 6. Heart made fat, eyes made blind, ears shut. That's why you have not known and you have not understood that you are in error. Verse 19. And none considereth in his heart, neither is there knowledge nor understanding to say, I have burned part of it in the fire. Yea, also I have baked bread upon the coals thereof. I have roasted flesh and eaten it. And shall I make the residue thereof an abomination? Shall I fall down to the stalk of a tree? So, the Israelite in these nations who have been given JC is not even smart enough to consider the fact that, and he doesn't even have any knowledge or understanding to say, man, I took part of this tree and I burnt it in the fire. I took part of this tree and I baked bread with it, made coals. I've roasted my flesh to eat. Shall I take the residue of this and make an abomination with it and fall down to the stalk of a tree? So to the man of Israel and the nations right now that's talking about JC died for you and JC is the way and all this other nonsense, have you considered that gold mold that's on your neck or that dumb idol in your house is the work of men's hands? Have you considered that it cannot save you? Have you considered that your parents and your grandparents before them and their parents before them have worshiped and placed their trust in this same graven image? And the Most High has afflicted them, and the Most High has killed them. And the ones that were allowed to live any length of years, all of their stories are nothing but bitterness. Have you considered that? Verse 20. He feedeth on ashes. A deceived heart hath turned him aside, that he cannot deliver his own soul, or he cannot deliver his soul, nor say, is there not a lie in my right hand? So, your heart has been turned away. You have been deceived because you decided to walk after idols. You're saying that somebody died for you, went up into heaven, is going to come down and pick you up and take you back into the sky someplace. You're going to be raptured up, is the term that they're using. It's a lie. It's a falsehood. And you cannot even perceive that there's a stumbling block in your heart. And there's a lie before your very face. And that you've placed your trust in an engraven image and you have taken a hold of vanity. You can't even do that just yet. But as times begin to be harder for you, and you hear the words of the Most High from channels such as this, and you turn to the Most High and you cry out with your whole heart and your whole soul in the correct manner by facing Jerusalem, lifting your hands in prayer upon your knees, asking for knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, that your eyes may see and that your ears may hear and that your heart may understand, then he's going to allow you to see the error of your ways. And you're going to be ashamed for what you have done in times past. And if your heart is right, you will turn with your whole heart, your whole soul, and you will not turn back to that abomination. And you will find it to be your responsibility to teach those who are in error that they may be given an opportunity to turn. Simple as that. All right. So we're at verse 21 and we're reading all the way to 28. Verse 21 reads, "Remember these, O Jacob and Israel, for thou art my servant, the servant of the Most High is the children of Israel. I have formed thee. Thou art my servant." You didn't say that again. "O Israel, thou shalt not be forgotten of me." We're not to forget the Most High, and the Most High is certainly not going to forget us. Verse 22, "I have blotted out as a thick cloud thy transgressions." So our transgression has been blotted out by the Most High, and guess what? We did not need a baptism for that, and no man died for that to happen, or died on our behalf for that to happen. Okay, so here we are. "I have blotted out as a thick cloud thy transgressions, and as a cloud thy sins. Return unto me." He didn't say anything but get baptized. "Return unto me, for I have redeemed thee." So we have been redeemed before. We have been saved before. We have been sent many saviors before. You have taken a hold of falsehoods that's been taught to you by your enemies. Verse 23, "Sing, O ye heavens, for Yah hath done it. Shout, ye low parts of the earth. Break forth into singing, ye mountains, O forest, and every tree therein. For Yah hath redeemed Jacob and glorified himself in Israel. Thus saith Yah, thy Redeemer, and he that formed thee from the womb. I am Yah that maketh all things. Thou stretcheth forth the heavens alone." That's by himself. No sidekicks with him, no JC, none of that nonsense. "That spreadeth abroad the earth by myself." Myself means singular. 25, "That frustrateth the tokens of liars, and maketh diviners mad. That turneth wise men backwards, and maketh their knowledge foolish." When you think of all this Christianity nonsense that you have believed, and you turn back onto the Most High's righteousness, you see how foolish that whole story is. And then you ask yourself, how could I be so stupid to have believed that? How could my people be so stupid to still believe that in spite of all that they bear witness to day to day? And the reason why they can be so stupid is because the Most High has removed their knowledge, their wisdom, and their understanding. He has removed their ability to see, their ability to hear, and their ability to understand. That this book may be right before them and they can read it, and it's like Chinese to them. They can't even understand it. And that's the power of the Most High. So once you are brought to remembrance and you can read this and see it, then you become ashamed. You feel stupid because all that you saw has always been before your very eyes, but you could not see it because you were dumb and you were walking after dumb idols. All right. Verse 26, "That confirmeth the word of his servant, and performeth the counsel of his messengers, that saith to Jerusalem, thou shalt be inhabited, and to the cities of Judah ye shall be built, and thou will raise up the decayed places thereof." Verse 27, "That saith to the deep, be dry, and I will dry up thy rivers. That saith of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and shall perform all my pleasure. Even saying to Jerusalem, thou shalt be built, and to the temple thy foundations shall be laid." So this is to reiterate to the house of Israel that we are not to walk after falsehood. We're not to take a hold of these dumb idols, for once we do that, we become as dumb as the idol, and we become as dumb as the makers of the idol. All these idols do, these devils, because idols are devils, is they make us more estranged from the Most High. It leads us down a dark alleyway that we need not be. And this was done by enemies on purpose in order to keep us from finding out who our God really is. Because once we find out who our God really is and we turn to Him with our whole heart and our whole soul, us and our children, then the Most High gives us dominion over our enemies. Do you think our enemies are going to give you that information? Of course not. Now, let's turn to Deuteronomy chapter 32. That way you understand that you're actually devil worshippers and you're not to do this thing. Deuteronomy chapter 32. Let's cover that. That way you'll understand what a devil is. And if you're paying homage to devils, then you are indeed a devil worshiper. It's really that simple. We have no time to mince words, and we have no time to spare people's feelings. We've got to get down to the nitty-gritty. The situation is critical. All right, now, Deuteronomy chapter 32. Deuteronomy chapter 32, and we will read verse 17. And listen carefully to this. Verse 17 of Deuteronomy chapter 32 reads, "They sacrificed unto devils." So when you, back in the day, in the days of old, when we were cutting out, carvings of the trees and going up into the mountains and having all these eminent high places and doing all these ridiculous sacrifices that the Most High did not instruct us to do, we were doing these sacrifices onto these devils, paying homage to devils. So let's get a clear understanding of what that is. They sacrifice unto devils, not Yah, or not God, to gods whom they knew not. Gods, lowercase, that's idols. This is the JC and any other idol that you have, which are known as stumbling blocks in your hearts. If you have any idol in your heart, you will not be allowed to understand this word. So if you're one that reads, take a quick segue real quick. If you're one that reads this quote unquote book of remembrance, and you cannot understand this thing one iota, it's like reading Chinese to you. The reason why you are unable to understand is because you are worshiping and walking after devils, aka idols. And because you have that idol in your heart, that is a stumbling block. Because of that, the Most High will not allow you to see, will not allow you to hear, nor will He allow you to understand. There's a lesson that I've done on this channel. It's called, Brother, I Don't Understand. So if you don't understand any of this stuff when you read it, I would suggest you look at that lesson, have your books open wide and your mind as well, and you will be given a clear understanding of why you're not allowed to understand any of this. And that's because you have a stumbling block in your heart. Now you take that idol out, take that JC out, chuck it to the side, and go in there and read that book. You have a clear understanding of what has happened to you, why it has happened to you, and what you need to do in order to bring some peace onto your own self and to your house and to save yourself from the oppression that you're in the many nations. So if you're having trouble understanding this word, do read, brother, or do look at that lesson, brother. I don't understand. It certainly will help. All right, let's get back to Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 7. They sacrifice unto devils, not unto Yah, to gods, lowercase, whom they knew not. The house of Israel never knew of a JC, never existed. This thing is brand new. To new gods or new idols that came newly up. JC is new. There's no such thing as anybody named JC before the Romans got on the scene. Does not exist. This is a Roman concoction. Remember, Romans is Italians. Italians are Catholics. Catholics are Romans. The Catholic Church had a split known as the Protestant Reformation. When the Protestant Reformation took place, that is nothing but a splitting up of the Catholic Church. They split up over ideology. They split up over power and money. These are nothing but a bunch of Europeans. So once the Roman Catholic Church split during the Protestant Reformation, now you have what's known as the evangelical churches or the Protestant churches. Same thing. That's where you get your Seventh-day Adventists, your Mormons, your Baptists, your Southern Baptists, your this, that, all the many denominations of Christianity.